Isofarian Guard. This is your review for 2. Good day, my name is Joe. Today I'll be going over Isofarian Guard and how it plays with 2 players. This box is very large. I'm gonna get it off the table. As you can see, it comes in a pretty big box with a pretty nice organizer. But Isofarian Guard is a 1 to 2 player game, which is kind of interesting in the co-op genre. It only goes up to 2, but it's essentially a story about these duets going out, adventuring, exploring the lands, learning more about the story, fighting enemies, leveling up, getting gear, just like an RPG would be. And hopefully by the end of each chapter, by the end of each campaign, your characters grow enough in power to complete the campaign. There are 5 campaigns in the box, and let's see a little bit more how to play. Now, I'm not going to go too far in depth on the how to play, but I'll give you the basic gameplay loop. Each person, if you're playing with 1 person, you have control 2 people. Playing with 2, each person controls 1/2 of the party, which is what we're doing. And you'll basically be moving around this map, exploring these different nodes, exploring these different cities, gathering resources, by maybe chopping trees, mining, doing different story events. Along the road, you're going to fight enemies. These enemies have different drops. You don't know what you're going to encounter. You may not encounter any enemies. During the battle, though, it's really kind of a bag builder game, which, if you know anything about me, I love bag building games. I think they're so much fun. These chips are just as good as the chip theory games, and it is awesome to draw chips, to do your damage. Each enemy has their own slot. You're going to be fighting at most 4 enemies during the battle. You're going to draw your chips, see what actions you can do. There's a lot of varied action in this game. That's kind of how the battle works. You go, they go, and hopefully by the end you can kind of win, gather your rewards, gather your Lux experience, or your Lux essence, your experience, and your Sil, kind of your money. And you can use your Lux experience to kind of level up in this big party, this big leveling tree, which is really nice. And that's kind of the gameplay loop. When you run across a node that has a story marker, you read the story. It does come with the Foreteller app, which can read the story to you, which I do highly suggest because there's a lot of reading in this game. But I will say, story's pretty good. And that's kind of the basic gameplay loop. I don't want to get too far into the weeds in that, but it's basically move across the map, see if you're going to fight someone, fight them. If you're in a town, explore the town, level up your abilities, level up your weapons, and then, keep on going and exploring the land. So a really nice kind of RPG experience. So let's see a little bit more what I thought about the game. So in this game comes with a lot of components, and really I have to say this game did a bang up job with components. These chips are awesome. These cubes are awesome. The cards are pretty nice. There's boards here. The organization, the game trays that come in the big box are really, really good. It's easy to put this game up and to bring it back out. Relatively easy. There's still a lot on the table, but overall, the components in this game, top notch. The rules, actually fairly straightforward. I really do like the rules in this game. The gameplay loop is flowy, it's good. Pulling chips from the bag, is nice. They did a good job of explaining that. A couple nuances here and there, but you're going to have some nuances in a big game like this. The references themselves, this fold-out reference has been my savior throughout the game. As we're playing back and forth, just knowing this step, okay, and it's really nice that way. However, when it comes to the other stuff, well, that's where it gets a little bit more convoluted, which I'll talk about later. But you got 3 big books, a reference, and the rule book. So the actual rules itself, they're not bad, but they're chunky. A lot of this is story. But like I said, I'll get into it a little bit later. There's still a lot to kind of process and find out in this game. But components, fantastic. Rules, fairly straightforward. References, as good as it can for a game this size. Let's talk about setup. So initial setup did take me a little bit, but in future I can see how this is easier than most big campaign games to set up and take down. You know, I will say they did a great job giving you the organizers. I like the card organizers, whether it's the, small item, kind of item cards, or the big monster cards, because you put them up after every single encounter. You can save your stuff with these awesome game trays. The setup in this game is actually probably the fastest with this big kind of table. Now, let's talk about table size, because with 2 players, we're sitting across from each other, and this can barely fit on our 3x5 or our 3x6. I forgot how long it is, but it's a big, massive game. You have to have space. You can probably save a lot of space if you didn't have this big map on the board. There are apps that you can use that will definitely shrink up the table, but it's kind of nice having this little map over there. So it is going to be a table hog for you. So let's talk about the gameplay, and I think this gameplay is a lot of fun. I love bag builders, like I said, and it's just fun to upgrade your bag with different card abilities. As you go along the road, you're going to get different cubes in the bag. When you level up, you're going to get different chips in the bag. Different abilities. The abilities play off of each other. Both characters play differently. We just finished Chapter 2. And we've seen caravan events, we've seen side quests, we've seen a couple boss battles, we've seen upgrading, a fort. We've seen a lot of stuff in this game. We've upgraded weapons, we've upgraded our characters, and I feel like we barely scratched the surface. The gameplay loop is pretty interesting. I like the mechanics on how the battle works, except I will throw this caveat in. It feels really bad when enemy defense kind of counteracts an attack. This is one of my big gripes about the game, and I'll talk about this, in kind of my end, recap. But when a player can only do 2 damage and the opponent has 2 shield, you basically do no damage, and that feels really bad. Unlike Marvel Champions, where the enemy scaling is in the health, so when you do 2 damage, you do 2 damage, which feels pretty good. But in this game, if the enemy has 2 shield and you only do 2, it feels bad not being able to do damage. So I don't like that design of the game, and it is a feels bad portion of the game. One of the characters is fairly weak and kind of supporting of the other one, especially in the first campaign, and it can feel bad in this loop. However, the basic loop of the game is actually really just nice. The drawing the chips, the exploring, you feel like you're exploring, and after the battle you gain your experience. Even if you die, you lose all your money, you lose all your item cards, but your experience stays, so you're always going to get a little bit more powerful every combat, and that does feel good. Upgrading this fort, which isn't really a spoiler because it happens pretty soon. Getting new cards, getting new abilities, being able to do this and that, upgrading your gear, all that just feels good in the game until you get to this combat where, just shields on enemy, it hurts this game so much that I have to comment about it. There are a couple of oppressive chips as well if you don't have a way to take care of it. Some that just lets you not do any of your abilities, so on your turn it's kind of null and void, and you can just watch the other person play a little bit, and that's kind of bad. But in this game, I see where they're going. So many good things about this game, but like I said, there's some sort of disconnect on damage to shield ratio. I wish the enemies just had more health instead of this actual shield. But I see where they were going with this game. But overall, grandiose campaign, RPG style elements, really fun. Love the bag builder, love the story. And I just don't have enough, bad to kind of say, about that part of this game. So let's talk about the replayability. I don't think you'll have trouble with the replayability of this game, because this game, they say it's over 100 hours, and we've had to have played quite a bit by now. And we've played about 6 to 7 sessions worth, an hour to 2 hours a piece. And I feel like we've even barely scratched the surface. We've made it a long way through the campaign, but I don't think you have to worry about the replayability, that portion of this game. And even when you finish one of the campaigns, there's still 4 more to go after the first. So let's just get down to it. You want to hear, is this game good for 2? And I think this is a very good game for 2 if it weren't for some of the mechanical issues. Like I said, the shielding feels really bad. Also, if you're not into the grind, then this game is also not for you. This game is a lot about, I don't want to say fetch quests, but go get this so I can upgrade that, but it's across the map. I have to fight 6 enemies before I get there to chop this wood, to bring it to this specific city. It kind of feels, if you don't like that loop of enemy, get your one resource you were kind of hunting for, enemy to get back to the city. If you don't like that loop, this game is not for you. The skill trees are great. However, this one index book has just so much stuff in it. You forget what you need to upgrade. Where we had to start writing some notes for us to say, we need these sort of items over here. I suggest making tabs if you're going to get this game for the index. This game does so much good, but you have to know what you're getting yourself into for 2 players. This is a long-term commitment, because you really want to finish the campaign before you either put this up or move on, because you'll never really come back to the campaign if you kind of lose steam. And that's one part about these, the campaign fatigue can really set in a game like this. This isn't a game like Marvel Champions, where the campaign's small enough to kind of fit. Too Many Bones campaign you could fit in, in one session. Even a Marvel Champions can probably be done over 2 sessions fighting the 5. But this is just a long, arduous campaign, and you have to know what you're getting yourself into when you're getting a game like this. This is not a 1 session, kind of a month game. And maybe it is for you, but I would definitely forget about the story. It's like a Gloomhaven campaign, kind of fatigue, Stars of Ikarios. I don't want to call Oathsworn. Oathsworn has some levels of campaign you can kind of jump into. But this game is just grandiose. It's big, and campaign fatigue is already kind of starting to set in. I told my wife that we were going to try to finish the campaign number 1 before we move on. But I can already tell, just the way we're playing, the gameplay is a lot of fun. But like I said, do you enjoy that grind? Do you enjoy the grind of getting one thing per battle and kind of building yourself up, having to go over here, fetch that one thing to upgrade that one piece of gear so you can make sure that the boss goes down swiftly? So many good things. The story is great. The gameplay loop is great. The upgrading is great. There's so many good things about this game. So many fun things. Just kind of knock down a peg, from, a little bit of the difficulty of, not the difficulty of the encounters, but feel like both people can contribute. And then also just the campaign fatigue. If you're not willing to put in, say, 20 to 30 hours to finish the first of 5 campaigns in this game's probably not for you. Like I said, maybe a Too Many Bones or something that is more of more of that style could be for you. But if you're into the grandiose campaigns, if you want this game to sit on your table for a long time, if you want a Gloomhaven-esque kind of campaign, this game is for you. It does so much. The story's so good. It's so fun to build the character. I can't say enough of good things around this game, except, the two gripes on you have to know what you're getting yourself into. I'm actually probably going to do a video pretty shortly about campaign fatigue, and it's kind of based on some of this and some of my experiences. But great game. Is it a must-buy? No. But if you liked a lot of the things that I've touched on about big grandiose campaigns, maybe this game is for you. I think it's great for 2 players. I think it's a great, bonding experience. But is it for everyone? No. So that's kind of my review on Isofarian Guard, and until next time.